have to say, this being my first Ferrari that I've actually owned and really driven a lot on the street, it does not disappoint. What an amazing experience this is. And it's definitely a childhood dream come true. And I am at a complete loss of words right now. The fact that here I am, 39 years old, and driving my Ferrari, and it's surreal. It's an amazing experience. It's a culmination of years of hard work and determination and dedication and support from my family and friends, and it's amazing to have this all come together. Today we're going to be talking about what my first impressions are of this amazing car and what it's like owning a Ferrari. So let's enjoy the amazing scenery we've got out here, because now that this winter storms have ended here in California, we've got some beautiful, beautiful scenery before everything goes and turns to gold. And it's just a glorious day out here, springtime in the Sierra foothills out here in California. So of course, the car's fast. We all know these cars are fast. I mean, you see the numbers in all the reviews and stuff. I mean, this one's rated for a 0 to 60 in like low 3-second time frames and quarter miles in 10.8 with a top speed of 202 miles an hour. So yeah, it's really fast. And it's an amazing machine, and I absolutely love it. It has exceeded all of my expectations. And wow, the entire experience, from the sounds that it makes, that flat plane V8 crankshaft, how it pulls consistently through the entire RPM range, it's very, very impressive. Coming from the Viper and having that vehicle with the huge amount of torque that it has, and going to this that has a lot less torque but more horsepower and also a higher red line, it's such a different experience, and it pulls really, really strong, and I'm really impressed with how it behaves. It's just really an amazing experience. And then of course, I mean, the dual clutch transmission, what's not to love about that, other than the fact that you don't have the third pedal and rowing the gears yourself? But with the paddles, you can still change the gears yourself, but you're just not going to be missing a shift, and you're going to be shifting so much faster. It's just amazing. It just makes me wonder why I haven't got one of these earlier. And I know the answer to that. It's because I couldn't afford it before. But man, if I could have afforded this earlier, it would have been so nice to have had this when I was younger. But that's all right. I digress. I'm still extremely young for being a Ferrari owner, which I've discovered recently by going to Ferrari Owner Club events. And I'm totally okay with that, because that's how it was when I got the Viper over a decade ago. I was a lot younger than most of my peers in that community. What's really fun is the fact that when I got into the Viper community back in 2011, the Viper I got, it was well used. I mean, it was someone's daily driver. It had over 60,000 miles on it. It was definitely worn, but I mean, mechanically it was pretty solid. And here we are, a little over a decade later, buying my first Ferrari and buying a certified used Ferrari, one owner car, low mileage, high option car. It's just amazing how I've been able to grow over the last 12 years. And I'm really looking forward to the next decade and see where my world takes me. Now, of course, one of the best parts of the Ferrari is the sound. That flat plane V8 crankshaft, and in this case, revs to 9,000 RPM. The exhaust note is just intoxicating. And I already had to make a change to it. Now, I didn't replace the entire exhaust system, but at the recommendation of the dealership, Ferrari of San Francisco, that I purchased the car from, I went ahead and ordered a valve controller from Capristo. And what that allowed me to do is control when the valves on the exhaust open and close, or in my case right now, don't close, because I have them set to just stay open all the time. And the reason I did that was because even in race mode, which is what I've got the car driving in right now, the valves would still close under lower RPMs or when you let off the throttle. And so there are a variety of times when you want the exhaust valve still open to get that screaming exhaust note, and you wouldn't get it. And so with the valve controller in there and being able to leave the valves open all the time, you just get that amazing infectious sound all the time, and I absolutely love it. Now, will I end up changing the exhaust out later down the road? Maybe, hard to say. Right now it sounds amazing and I love how it sounds, so it's kind of hard for me to justify the expense. I mean, on a cheap end, Ferrari has a sport exhaust system, which I'm told makes these cars sound like the GT3 cars, which is about $6,000 plus installation. The higher end ones, your Capristos and stuff, can be $10,000, $15,000. And I don't know if I'm gonna get that much benefit out of it for the cost, considering it already sounds amazing. So how's the overall driving experience with the Ferrari? Everything you could imagine and then some. I mean, it's so responsive, it handles insanely well, and it stops on a dime. It does everything you expect out of a supercar, especially a Ferrari. And the refinement is just incredible. The attention to detail is just unbelievable. And it just makes you feel like a race car driver. It makes you feel like you're Michael Schumacher out in Formula One. Now granted, maybe more like GT racing, but still. It's so crisp on the throttle response. That's one of the things you read online, especially on the 458s. People talk about how twitchy the throttle is. While the throttle may be a little twitchy for around town driving, I haven't had any problems with it. It just makes it feel more like a race car and wanting to go fast, because that's what this car wants to do. It wants to be driven hard all the time. Sure, it'll cruise if you want to cruise, but really it's most happy when you're out banging gears and carving corners. And it handles so well. It just takes these corners insanely well and just feels planted to the ground and hugs the road. It's just an incredible experience that I absolutely love. And then surprisingly, it's really roomy on the interior. I'm so used to with the Viper being so confined because you got the giant transmission tunnel and stuff due to the T56 transmission, and this having everything in the back, you get so much more room that you really get a lot of interior room. And then of course having the carbon fiber race bucket seats gives you even more room, both headroom, legroom, all of that. And so it's just really nice. It's super comfortable. I have managed to already take this on a couple of road trips to the Bay Area and Sacramento, where I've spent 5-6 hours in this thing, and I'm not sore or beat up at the end of the day. The Viper, I've driven it to Vegas and stuff, but it's a long, hard drive, and it beats you up, especially my old Viper, my ACR with the Penske race coilovers. And this car, not a problem at all, especially since it's got the bumpy road mode. You just engage bumpy road mode, softens the suspension a bit, and you just cruise along and have a great time. Now, don't get me wrong, bumpy road mode still has its limitations. It's not going to make you feel like you're in a Cadillac or a Rolls Royce. It's still a sports car, so let's be real about that. But it takes some of the edge off and makes it even more bearable for when you're going on those long road trips, or if you're driving on bad roads. When I first made the transition to thinking that I needed to get the 458 versus a Scuderia or even a gated Ferrari, I was a little sad, not gonna lie, about not having a 3-pedal car for my supercar. But you know what? After driving this car and how responsive the DCT is and how well it just works, I'm not sad at all that this car has 2 pedals instead of 3. It is an absolute blast to drive, and it's nice to be able to take one thing out of the equation especially when you start driving more spiritedly. One area that I was really pleasantly surprised that it did really well at was stop and go traffic. When I picked this up from Ferrari of San Francisco, we left the dealership mid-afternoon and it was traffic. We had plenty of stop and go traffic to go from San Francisco, or Mill Valley really, all the way back here into the Sierra foothills. And so I got to see how well this car performed, how the blind spots were, how the transmission behaved, how the throttle response was, the brakes. Every single thing got put to the test from a commute standpoint, and it passed with flying colors. It drove insanely well for being stuck in the traffic and for being a finely tuned precision supercar, and I was really pleased with that. I didn't expect that at all. The single clutch gearbox cars probably would have been a bit more of a challenge, but the dual clutch worked flawlessly. So in the future, I'll go ahead and do a full review of the car, top to bottom and stuff, and what my thoughts are. Today, I just want to give you guys an initial response to what my first impressions are, which of course are, this thing is amazing. Now, I have to say, this is a very expensive car. There's no two ways about that, and of course, not everybody's going to be able to afford a Ferrari, but I highly encourage any automotive enthusiast out there that has any kind of an inkling at what a Ferrari is like to drive. If you can't buy one, rent one. If you can't afford to rent one, go to one of those track things like they have at Vegas where you can drive exotic cars. For a few $100, you can go ahead and try out a Ferrari out on a track, and I tell you, it is worth every penny, because the experience behind the wheel of one of these it's unlike anything else I've ever experienced, and I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity to have this car.